go ahead. All right, looks like you've got your
So I
three.
got my three
Okay.
for each section.
You want to go over them real
Sure.
quick with me?
So the no sugar is going to be kale, arugula, and onion.
Okay.
So those are three things I've had that I feel like have no sugar in the last couple days. My refined sugar is the Kind bars, or like the granola bar, Kind bars.
Yeah.
So Kind bar, dark chocolate, and tortilla chips.
Okay.
I feel like there has to be some sugar in tortilla chips. I'm not sure.
Do you know what brand that you had? I mean, it could go either way, but
I know it was like one with a quinoa in it,
okay.
or flaxseed or something in it.
All right.
I don't recall because I ate them all.
Well, being that we're not at your house, I
Right.
need to see the wrapper and ingredients
Oh.
list because it very well
Okay.
could or maybe not.
Okay.
Depends on like the flavor.
Got you,
and
got
this-
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so some don't. You're saying maybe. Okay.
Most likely not, but
Oh.
you never know.
Okay.
You
Okay.
never know.
And I thought maybe they were because they were like the ones that had like the like lime on them,
Okay.
the lime seasoning on them.
Yeah.
Natural sugars: apple, banana, and blueberries.
Perfect. That
Cool.
all sounds good.
Okay.
I do want to ask with the no sugars, the kale, onion, and arugula.
Yep.
Was that just in a salad, or how did you?
Yeah.
Okay. I make some dishes that
Yeah.
kale and bacon or kale and chicken
Okay.
are
Yeah.
separate.
So arugula was fresh, and then the kale was sautéed.
Okay, perfect. So, with that, I mean, you're dead on correct, but with that, keep in mind, like, dressings and everything else, other items that you might add
Okay.
that might have sugar,
Right.
refined sugar in them as well. So, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
That gives me a basis to know that you have a good head start with knowing what has sugars and what doesn't,
Okay.
especially off the top of your head. And if you're eating kale and arugula and onions, like, more so it sounds like the foods that you listed are more in line with a healthier outlook on life
Yeah.
than Doritos and
Right.
Tostinos pizzas and
Right.
Coca-Cola.
Right.
So,
Don't get me wrong. I love some pizza rolls, but
hey,
hey.
we all do, don't we?
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
Are there any foods that you think you might have a question about, as far as the difference between natural sugar versus refined sugar?
Yeah. What about those like Amy like frozen meals? Like some of those frozen meals that are they seem to be healthier options, on the go options, even. Say for instance when I go to the grocery store, the salad bars at the grocery store. What sort of items would be in there? How about like beets? Would those be like a natural sugar?
Yeah. Beets, pretty much anything of the earth.
Okay.
OTE is what I've read to be the acronym for it. It's going to be the natural sugars.
Okay.
Refined sugars are going to be the processed, even brown sugar, white sugars as well. And it's all through bleaching and then leaving some different aspects of the sugar in to make it brown.
Oh.
It gets pretty in depth. There's a science behind it.
Okay.
And that's something that we could discuss further
Okay. Good.
in another meeting if
Oh.
you're interested.
I would love to know more about raw sugar.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
For like coffee and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I know now all these ones are popping up. How about heavy cream? That's kind of I came to I've been kind of into that. I'm not buying it as much just because it's so yummy
Yeah.
to put in your coffee. Is there sugar in heavy cream, or is that does it depend on the?
There is.
Okay.
If you were to buy it from a farmer's market, maybe
Yeah.
something that's local, something that's organic,
Yeah.
you could maybe find some. I would need to do more research. I don't want to say yes or no.
Okay.
But having grown up on a dairy farm myself
Oh.
back in Indiana, I know that there are some
Okay.
very unprocessed dairy drinks
Okay.
that I grew up on, that unpasteurized, just raw milk,
Mhm.
raw creams, that type of
Mhm.
stuff. So I know they exist,
Okay. Great.
but sourcing them might be a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
Local co-op peoples here in Portland might have access to
Okay.
it. And that's all regulated by state. Arizona, I believe, has a no raw dairy law.
Oh.
They used to sell at the the co-op in Arizona when I
Mhm.
worked there, but I don't think they do anymore.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
the other thing to take into consideration with creams and coffees, like it adds weight, it adds some depth to
Mhm.
the coffee,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more filling. And it's usually such a small amount that yes, it can affect you, especially if you have a condition, autoimmune disease, any other kind of illness or sickness. But at the same time, factor in the quality of life. And if it's a little bit, yes, it can affect you,
Mhm.
but it also, I don't want to say is all right, but quality of life.
Okay.
That's my way of navigating around the yes and no, black and white,
Mhm.
open or closed.
Okay.
Because it can very easily become too many rules, too many laws.
Okay.
So, but already have a good basis
Okay,
on
good.
knowing what's what, so I can appreciate that.
Cool.
And let's move on to the meat of the discussion. So this is going to get a little heady
Mhm.
potentially, and stop me or slow me down if you have any questions.
Okay.
But basically, we're going to get into how sugars, how they become addictive in
Okay.
a sense, and it's a little bit of chemistry, how it breaks down, and this is just going to be a very approachable level, something that's easy to grasp for
Right.
everyone that's not here, since this is a group meeting. Basically, sugars in your system, they help release dopamine. Have you heard of dopamine before?
The happy.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah. And so with that, dopamine's a neurotransmitter that basically regulates the reward system.
Mm.
It's kind of like what you hear about people that use drugs, basically. Like, it releases this dopamine, this neurotransmitter. It then affects the reward circuit in your body or in
Uh-huh.
your system, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel high, or it gives you a buzz, or whatever you want to call it. Alcohol is the same thing. Cocaine, methamphetamine, coffee, perfect. Caffeine,
Dark
Yeah.
chocolate.
dark chocolate, yeah, exactly.
Just sugar, period. Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. And it's not that methamphetamines are sugar;
Yeah.
they just
right.
hit the same receptors
Oh.
that trigger the same neurotransmitters.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong.
Maybe not as strong. It's hard to say.
PCP or caffeine. Sorry, not to joke about
No,
PCP,
I know.
but we're friends, so we
Yeah.
can do that. But yeah, so okay, dopamine's a neurotransmitter.
Right.
It hits on the receptors that release the feel-good system or symptoms, basically. And much like any of the street drugs, where like heroin, you always hear about people are always chasing that initial high.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with sugar.
Yeah.
And so, as kids, or depending on when you were introduced to sugar, say most of us very young in age,
Yeah.
because we've been told it's okay or it's
Mhm.
fine or it's not unhealthy, we're just chasing that initial feeling that we're now conditioned to
Mhm.
feel and think that it's normal.
Right.
But what we don't know and what we don't feel is that in a lot of ways sugar is just building up this inflammation, and it's feeding this unhealthy gut bacteria that's in our systems that has oftentimes been overpopulated because of the antibiotics that we've had as kids, being sick with strep throat or mono or whatever it might have been. It's like a nuclear bomb. The antibiotics are a nuclear bomb that kill indiscriminately all of the bacteria, and then we feed it with peanut butter and jelly, or we feed it with whatever sugary foods to like start to try to feel better. Popsicles for me as a kid, and then it can turn into what's called SIBO,
Yeah.
bacterial overgrowth, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which then just builds and builds and builds, creates more inflammation. The sugar does, and then that can lead to disease, which is why I think a lot of what I had going on with me led to my MS.
Yeah.
I was drinking, and I'll admit it, a lot of Mountain Dew
Yeah.
because of the caffeine, and I could stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning with it, on it, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And Little Debbie's were cheap and affordable.
Debbie's.
They got a soft spot in your heart?
Well, they're like the rolls, the chocolate
They had like star crunches.
Okay,
and,
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was my.
They
my
kinda-
jam.
So, do you know,
I like how this is working out. That
Okay.
timer. That makes it so much easier.
good, it stopped me from another question.